This meeting is being recorded.
A very warm welcome to Mr. Aksh Rohatgi, who is the CEO and the country head for ISS. Aksh has taken out his valuable time to share his perspectives on the new labor codes, which can be launched anytime. And I have with me in this session two of my colleagues, Rajiv Kapoor and Mahesh, who are the subject matter experts for the compliance domain. Rajiv leads the entire central operations for team lease, and Mahesh is a domain expert with us who will be helping us with the kind of details of the new labor code. And myself and Aksh, from the CEO perspective, we will certainly share our ideas, our thought processes, and what are the kind of practicalities that, in our experience, that we have seen, rolling up in the past, and how these new labor codes can have a positive impact or can be further improved for us for ease of the business or the business impact itself. So thanks, Aksh. Thank you again for taking out time for this discussion.
Thank you, Sumit. Thanks for having me over.
Mahesh, over to you, and you can start. Well,
sure, Sumit. Thank you so much. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon once again to all of them to joining us the webinar from Team Lease HRtech. We are going to touch upon the labor codes part today, and these two codes, which like code on wages and also code on social security, these two codes which we are going to touch upon majorly on in today's webinar. And also we are also, as rightly mentioned by Sumit, like we are also going to throw other insights and the lights which is in respect of the CEO perspective. This slide, the labor law landscape. So we have mentioned how the existing the 29 labor legislation, how many the sections are there, and how it has been subsumed with the 4 new labor codes which are going to get implemented. So currently there are it is an approximate number, like 1, 2, 3, 2 sections are there in the 29 the legacy labor acts, which is the central labor legislations. Now those 29 labor legislations or labor acts are going to subsumed under the new labor codes, and the sections, now what you have seen here, 480 sections are going to be there in the new labor codes, wherein earlier the provision was 1, 2, 3, 2. So there is a significant the change in the new labor codes. That's when it will make ease of doing business in India. That's the whole of the to bring in the new labor codes from the existing labor acts. So as I mentioned, there are 4 labor codes. Like these 4 labor codes have been subsumed under the 29 labor legislation. So one is the 13 acts, like which is the major acts are factories, plantation, mine, and the contract CLR. Majorly we are going to deal like majorly industries which are related to the factories or shops and establishment. So these companies are going to deal with the majorly on this act, and there are 13 acts which have been subsumed under the Code on Occupational Health and Safety. And 9 labor legislations, like labor acts, have been subsumed under the Code on Social Security. Here the major acts are which is related to employee compensation, employee state insurance, employee provident fund, employment exchange, maternity, gratuity. So these are all acts have been subsumed, and they have been called as a chapters under the code. So other the code which is related to Code on Industrial Relations, which is 3 acts have been subsumed. And the code on wages, which we are majorly going to touch upon this, the code on wages part, where these 4 acts, payment of wages, minimum wages, and the payment of bonus and equal remuneration, these 4 acts have been subsumed under the code on wages. Coming to Code on Wages 2019. So how Code on Wages?
Mahesh, just go to the previous slide. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Sumit?
essentially, all these earlier acts were there, and for us as an as an organizations which were into the business overall, there were so many different kinds of ticks in the boxes that we have to do. So that is consolidated into 4 labor codes. So Aksh, in your view, is it going to reduce the complexity, or how do you view this in terms of the erstwhile existing compliances that we had to do?
Yeah. So, Sumit, I think so. First of all, I just want to make sure that everyone on the call understands that I'm no legal expert. But the way I see this is, of course, a positive move towards standardization, towards ease of doing business, and making sure that that we are able to get a lot more done in India in comparison to other global economies. I think to me, while code is important, I mean, I think 44 coming to 4 is, Mahesh just mentioned 67% reduction in act. It's all great. I think it's the enforcement of these codes and these laws which is very, very critical. Just to, while we're talking about these 44, within the 44 codes, we also have these rules and laws, and then there are districts, and then there are attaches and notifications and whatnot that keep coming out, just complicating the matter. So if we can have something which is straightforward, simple, and doable, right, which is also an attempt to in the right direction, then I think it is very, very positive for the industry, very, very positive for the business, and at least there is one version of truth. There's one Bible that everyone's looking at. Right now, everyone interprets it to suit their own situation. So, which is actually an issue. So, the issue in terms of clarity of law, issue in terms of enforcement of law is also equally important than only having the legislation part.
Certainly, Aksh, absolutely. And the kind of diversity that we have in India in terms of the number of districts where different kinds of different kinds of legislations are already there. Now, consolidating it will certainly help and give a lot of confidence to the businesses to align to this simplified version. And of course, the aspect of execution is certainly which is very important. Aksh. Thanks, Aksh, for sharing your thoughts on this. Mahesh, yeah.
Yes, Sumit. More to the Code on Wages. So there are 4 acts have been subsumed, and as rightly mentioned by Sumit and Aksh, see, there was a clarity in terms of the applicability, the industry applicability in the current this 4 acts, industry applicability or coming to the wage definition. So there is always an ambiguity. Now how to interrupt in terms of the minimum wages, how to interrupt in terms of the payment of wages, what has been defined, whether this both definitions will provide a different meaning. So that was that is the current situation where they have provided a very clear clarity in terms of the applicability. Here I'm going to touch upon the applicability part, how it is going to be applicable for industries as well as the employees. Coming to the minimum wages part, the existing part, it is going to be applicable only to the certain industries, only what has been defined or what has been prescribed under the minimum wages notification or under the minimum wages act, the schedules what they have prescribed in terms of the applicability of the industries, only those industries shall be applicable. Wherein now after the implementation of the code, it's going to be applicable for all industries. There is no as such the specification or limitation to the industry. The industries, the specific limitation has been removed. Similarly, since it is going to be applicable for all industries, the applicability part for employee, the minimum wages shall be applicable for all the employees. So Payment of Wages Act, yes, again, Payment of the Wages Act only for certain industries which has been specified in the Payment of Wages Act. And Payment of Wages Act shall not be applicable who's drawing more than 24,000. So that's the current procedures, wherein the code, after code implementation, the payment of wages shall be applicable to all categories. No, there's no as such category that it's going to be applicable only for 24,000 below the workman or the employees category, whoever is working. So that limit is also going to be removed. And coming to the payment of bonus act, currently it is going to be applicable for factory where they have 10 or more, and coming to establishment, it is applicable 20 and more. So even this threshold also has been given to the empowerment to the respective states, where they can remove this 20 number, maybe they can bring it to even 10. So they have given the empowerment. Otherwise, it is a central legislation, and the rules have been framed at 20 or more. Wherein now the code has given the empowerment to the state to frame the applicability part and also the ceiling part. Ceiling part, it is again 21,000 is going to be applicable. So in case if they wanted to bring the ambit of bonus, more number of employees and more number of industries, the applicability part has been given to the empowerment to the respective states. So that's when what happened, the payment of bonus so shall not be equal for the every state. In case of if the one of the state which is coming up that we are going to have 10 or more employees, the bonus shall be applicable. The number of industries are going to be covered, more number of industries. Similarly, in case if companies are like the states are going with, instead of 21,000, if they are going with the 25,000 as a slab, then more number of employees are going to come under the ambit of payment of bonus. So this is the one of the major change which they have adopted under the code. So once the implementation happens, so there we could see the more changes in terms of the payment of bonus act applicability as well as the threshold. So equal remuneration part, they have brought in the another gender called transgender, or like as currently it is only male and female has been like both have to be paid with the equal remuneration. Now like under the code, it has like transgender also has been included. So transgender also has to be equally paid and equally has to be treated without any discrimination.
Yeah. So Mahesh, if we could, for clarity of our participants also, essentially it means that if I'm operating the same business in one state versus another state in India, the same business, basis on the state regulations, there will be a difference in terms of bonus payout. Are we right in saying this, or?
Yes. So maybe probably I'll put it across in a different way.
Yeah.
Say for example, like the industries are operating one industry, like the industry is operating one place from Karnataka, other places from Maharashtra, wherein the bonus applicability was same every, like even though you operate from two states, because this is the central act and central rules has been defined as 20 and more and 21,000 as a ceiling. Now currently code has given an empowerment to state. In case Karnataka is going with the 20, there wouldn't be any change. In case if Maharashtra is going with 10 or more, then the more number of industries and more number of employees are going to cover under the purview of bonus. Then we have to treat. And similar way, if the wage, if they're going with the same wage 21,000, which has been prescribed under the central rules, if state is prescribing 21, the Karnataka state, for example, they have prescribed 21. Where in Maharashtra, they wanted to bring more number of employees under the ambit of bonus. And they have stated that no, we will mention the wage as 25,000. So what will happen? More number of employees are going to get benefited. Now bonus, how I have to calculate for, calculation shall be same, but more number of employees will be for Maharashtra, where in Karnataka it will be less number. So that's the empowerment which has been provided in the upcoming codes.
Sure. So Aksh, do you think?
Am I clear?
Yes. So Aksh, do you think from a business expansion perspective, it will also help leaders like us in terms of which states we will prioritize in terms of our investments and expansion of businesses?
Well, Sumit, quite honestly, I was earlier alluding to the fact that clarity of law, I think, is one very important area for ease of doing business. I think, again, if all the states, they start defining the rules in a very different way and start interfering or interpreting the application in different ways, again, we will make a conundrum. Now, and just, if I was to think about this a little bit more, this is a result of our, second labor commission. The second labor commission was, I think, if I'm not wrong, was set up way back in 1999. right? So
Right.
almost 20 plus years have already gone by when the commission was set up and when we are bringing out something which is still tangible to some extent. And when I said second labor commission, I'm not even talking about the first labor commission, because that was a pre-independence era. So so while we are celebrating 75 years of Indian independence, I think these are some very hard fact to to look and to think about. I mean, a few other things we need to also think about is also the level of wages. Whether it's Karnataka or Maharashtra. If you were to see, so the Kerala, Goa, Delhi, Punjab, are the states which are inherently richer in comparison to the eastern states that we get into, Odisha, Bihar. But when companies are setting up businesses, it is not only the wage that they consider, or the tech stocks, but also the overall infrastructure that needs to come in play. Yeah, I mean, when I see Indian salaries in comparison to the global salaries, of course we all know. I mean, they are one of the lowest. Maybe in absolute dollar terms, they appear to be still respectable in comparison to some of the Asian countries. But if you were to convert them into a purchasing power parity, you'd be surprised that Indian minimum wages actually are even lower than that of Burkina Faso and Nigeria. And it's for your own interest, you guys check on the ILO website, right, which talks about country comparison. So we are way behind in terms of what we need to do. I think from my perspective, this number of 24,000 is also very important, right? Because a while back I was reading a statistic that if you're earning more than 25,000 in terms of salaries, you are probably in the top 10% of the wage earners of the country. And this I'm talking of a country of 1.4 billion people. So if you are earning more than 25,000 rupees, you are in the top 10%. So the Payment of Wages Act that way is covered 90% of the labor of the people in India. But I think the issues are also very different that we need to deal with. It's not about 90%. I mean, 70% or more actually don't even have a contract. So we have a blue collar, we have a white collar, but there's also a lot of collarless worker, which probably this the act may or may not have applicability on. So I think to your question, Sumit, maybe a long-winded answer. I think it is absolutely important to get more clarity on. I don't think so whether defining that there's a huge science between having 20 or more employees or 10 or more employees between one state to the other state. I think this is, to my mind, very politically motivated decision. I would have just hoped this thing comes out as early as possible and keep everyone on a level footing, so that from a business standpoint, I think there is much more ease and much more clarity on what needs to be done.
Absolutely, absolutely, Aksh. Thanks for sharing your detailed views on this, because certainly certainly how in India workers in terms of purchasing power parity, and in some of the other developing or the other African nations are there right now, or the East Asian nations are there, certainly brings a good perspective into how this labor laws and the new codes which are coming into existence, which will be coming into existence, will play out. And of course, understanding from what Aksh and the industry leaders who have been thought leaders, I'll say, in India in terms of in this region. I think this is like a very important initiative that should have been brought years and years ago. in India to get us to that kind of a acceleration on the business front. So thanks Aksh. I think we're moving to the first step of this, and certainly with the forums and the feedbacks that we have created with the government, I think we should be able to accelerate on this.
Yeah, I think that this is absolutely the basic. This is like the foundation layer before we start getting the development in. I mean, for the development of any economy, it is absolutely important to have the judiciary, the enforcement, and the banking reforms in place. I mean, we've been talking across all these for a while now, and maybe and still it's still not seen the light of the day. In fact, one of the things that if I was to go a little bit offbeat, has been my anticipation would have been if the codes and the laws get defined in a way that they cater to the current requirement. The issue is there's always a catch up. So when these codes were being formed, or the Labor Commission 1999 that I'm talking of, things have moved significantly. Right now, the issue is not about the bonus or the minimum wages. The issue is about even the labor participation in the workforce. That if you were to see only during the tenure of last 15 years, and this I'm talking of, the commission's been in place for 20 years back. But if you were to only look into the labor participation in workforce in last 15 years, that has gone down by 15%. From used to be 67%, now in high 40s. So that 15% roughly translates to about 135 million people. Yeah, and that's almost 1/3 of US population. So in that period, the labor participation has reduced significantly, and I do not know what the reasons are, and we can all have conjectures, and we all have our theories and point of view on what it is, but the laws and the applicability and what's being brought by our governors or the government needs to be also keeping in pace with the changing economy. Whether it's a gig economy then now that's coming in, or whether it is the labor participation rate that we need to worry about. So there's always a catch up. I just so wish we bring this out as early as possible, move on with it, and then also keep making changes to keep it current.
No, certainly, absolutely, Akshay. And when we are part of those organizations and leading the businesses which employs lakhs and lakhs of people. Of course, from your perspective, you've also seen Asian market and the rest of the world markets. And this is a very very important perspective that our leaders can take and then further fine tune this to make us competitive. Thank you. Thanks, Aksh.
Thanks, Sumit and Aksh. The major move, as we were actually discussing on the move, the wage has been very good. This is like how they have put it across. That's what I would like to highlight here. The wage part very clearly articulated or narrated in the wage definition. Now see, we have an ambiguity. As I mentioned, payment of wages or minimum wages, payment of bonus, all are having a different the meaning in terms of the wage. Wherein now in the code on wages, it is very in a different way. They have stated that exclusion portion can go up to 50%, which means remaining 50% has to be considered as a wage, which is a basic DA and retaining allowance. So as I mentioned here, maybe if I'll just move on to this slide where it is very clearly stated the wage definition under the wage section 2Y. So substantive and inclusive. I have stated the two parameters here, how inclusives are going to 50%. If, for example, if person's wage or the total gross remuneration is 50,000 per month, then 25,000 rupees should be your basic DA and retaining allowance. Retaining allowance, it is only for applicable for seasonal industry. Otherwise, the basic and DA should be 25,000. So that's how they have defined the wage. So where they have noticed more number of industries are where the quantum of DA being paid to deprive the benefits which is related to PF, ESIC, gratuity, bonus for all this calculation. The many industries were depriving. I mean to say that they were reducing the basic quantum. Now you do not have any option to reduce the basic quantum, because firstly you need to arrive at what is your exclusion, which is HRA. How much is the quantum you can have a HRA or conveyance allowance? What they have stated as a excluded portion here, the major components are the conveyance, HRA, any the house accommodation. Again, it gives the same definition. So that's when they have stated first you arrive at your exclusion portion, and remaining portion has to be considered as a wage. So which means they have stated the exclusion can go up to 50, not beyond 50, which means the 50% minimum is going to be a wage, which is a basic. It's going to be there. That's when the quantum towards the PF contribution or gratuity payable are going to be increased. This is one of the major move which has been taken in the code on wages. So what I'll do is I'll just run through this slide related to the sample structure, how it is. Probably after that you can maybe
because this is important, because this will determine a lot of changes in terms of the employee long-term benefits and the kind of outflow that is there going in from the organization, especially the manpower heavy organizations will be impacted. So Mahesh, if you can just take us through the entire, then we can have Aksh's views on this.
Yes. See, as I rightly mentioned, the exclusion portion are going to be HRA, any different special expenses, which is kind of like we call it as a washing allowance and conveyance allowance. This is what has been excluded, and the inclusive part I have stated as basic DA. Similar way, I have illustrated the salary structure. Now, how is the current salary structure, which is on the left? Like basic is 5,000, DA has been defined 2. HRA I have considered as 3, conveyance again 3, and washing allowance. So total gross salary is 16,000 here, wherein the basic being paid only, basic and DA being paid only 7,000. Now, how it is going to work out after the implementation of code? So code, it says that exclusion cannot go beyond 50. So then the 50%, the quantum of basic and DA should be 8,000. It has to work out to 8,000, and remaining 8,000 HRA, conveyance and a washing allowance has to be there. So this is where the quantum, the basic quantum will increase, and when the basic quantum increase, so obviously the other the quantum also, the financial implication which I have stated in my upcoming, like in this slide, how the industries are going to get impacted, or the implication, the financial implications, the employer's liability towards PF, ESIC contribution, bonus and gratuity may vary. So how I have again stated here, the PF quantum, for as I rightly mentioned, if basic somewhere the company has fixed as a 15,000 and person's salary was 50, like which is a gross remuneration is 50,000, wherein the basic has been considered as 1.5, which is 15,000. Now that is not the scenario after the code implementation. It's going to be 25,000 is going to be a the basic wages. That's when the contribution has to go. PF contribution should also go on 25,000. However, the ceiling part, the code is silent on the ceiling part. Again, they have stated that the central government, like Central Provident Fund, will come up with the notification. Otherwise, the quantum towards the PF, which are the companies who's contributing on the actual basic of the company, like by employee and the employer share, so the quantum will increase. Now, we will land up in paying on the 50% of the basic. Similarly, the ESIC quantum, again, the 21,000 is the ceiling, wherein, however, the code is not stated anything related to the capping, which is 21,000. The ESIC department has to come up with the notification. That's when even ESIC quantum, here they have stated. Another one which I would like to highlight is related to the we consider the gross wages for the purpose of ESIC eligibility, to arrive at the ESIC applicability or the eligibility, wherein after the code implementation, the wage only shall be considered for the ESIC applicability or the eligibility. So for example, if, as I mentioned, employee gross is 40, wherein wage has been defined or prescribed as 20,000. So the employee who's already getting 40,000 is going to come under the purview of ESIC, because his wage is 50% of his gross remuneration. So the more number of employees are going to come under the bucket of the ESIC. This is one more major change. And gratuity part, as I rightly mentioned, since the basic quantum is increased from like 50%, whichever company which is paying less than the 50% of the basic of the gross quantum, then the gratuity payable also will increase. So these are all the major. And coming to maternity benefit, again, the companies are paying on the total gross, wherein the wage, now maternity benefit under the code on social security, it is stated that again it has to be paid on the wage. If it is a 50% of the 40%, 40,000 of the gross salary, then the maternity benefit shall also be extended only to that 20,000 quantum. So these are all the major impact which is related to the financial aspects, like based on based on the change in the code on wages definition.
Sure, thanks, Mahesh. Aksh, what's going to happen is that while the long-term security of the employees is going to increase, but the outflow of from the employer perspective may be impacted, and also the take-home of the employee who is already at the bottom of the pyramid. Many of them will also get impacted. So, in your perspective, how is going to span out, or maybe what are the various how's the industry or those employees going to take it?
Yeah, I think so I think our organization, I mean, when I think of, we are a representation, we have 50,000 people all over India. We work in almost 23 states and union territories. So in many ways, it's a small representation of what this country is actually. And when we go and, and today is the first of the month, right? Today is the 1st of September. And when I go around, meet a lot of our people, whether they are in the security industry, or they are in FM, or a large part of those employees, I think this is the day actually they're looking forward to. Because first is a day when they are getting their salaries. It is very, very important for them. And I think with the rising inflation, with the way things are, it is going to be very, very difficult and very, very challenging for employees or for the employers to actually take down the salaries, the cash take home of employees. And especially which are falling in that strata of 24,000 and below. So once we did this, day in life of our frontliner, and you would be surprised. So the planning is, if this 25,000 or 24,000 is not for one individual, because it is for a family of 4. They really have to plan for the allowance for spices, and they have to plan for the allowance for the kids' education and whatnot. So I think we need to move away from that concept of minimum wages and that minimum salary to a concept of living wages. If from an industry standpoint, it is it has to be kept sustainable. So one of the things we've been trying to work with most of our customers is to also move away from a pricing model, which is very different than the age-old orthodox model. Move away from the input-based models to actually outcome-based model. Now, from an employer standpoint, they of course would hesitate in increasing the cost, and the only way they can afford the increased cost is by way of bringing in productivity. And that productivity could be brought in terms of, if you're not trying to capture the input, but if you're trying to capture the output or an outcome. So I think there is work that needs to be done on both ends. On the employee side, to think about what is the best way, and how do they continue to upskill themselves at all times so that their productivity continues to improve. And from an employer standpoint also, what are the newer ways and means that they should think of in terms of continuing to support the workforce, but also at the same time not to damage or completely destroy their balance sheets, and have a balance which can be brought about by increased productivity. So, and I just hope, we like I said, I've said this a number of times, that whatever the law comes, it remains as is and not open for interpretation. The moment we start taking interpretations out of it, then we start making it even more complex, not only from an employee standpoint, but also from an employer standpoint. And I've been hearing Mahesh for a while now, and Mahesh, I believe you're a lawyer or a legal or has a legal background, and if that's the case, we just have to watch out for a smart one, so that we all collectively, I think, stick to to the spirit of the law and not move away from the law.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Akshan, and that's really the clarity which is more important, and also the simplification, because then only it'll lead to a lot of compliances and a lot of real value add that will go to the last mile from the implementation and complying to these new labor codes. Sure, thanks, Aksh.
Thanks, Sumit. So we are moving on to the payment of wages. Under the payment of wages, there has been mentioned as a chapter under the code on wages. In the payment of wages, what all the major changes which are going to, like, the impacts are going to be the industries. Now, as I mentioned, the 24,000, the bracket or the capping has been removed, and they have also provided the clarity in terms of the wages, how the wages has to be paid, like daily wages has to be paid end of the day, and weekly has to be paid last working of the week, and fortnightly within 2 days after the end of the period. And one more, the changes on related to the monthly. Now we have two different classification. One is where the company is having 1,000 and less, have to pay the payment as like on or before 7th of the month. Anything which is beyond 1,000 employees, it has to be paid on 10th of the month. So the 10th has been removed. Irrespective of the numbers, the payment has to be paid to the employees or the workman within 7th of the subsequent month. So this one major change which they have brought in under the code on wages, under the chapter of payment of wages. And settlement, currently the settlement in case of termination, it has to be happened within 2 working days. Otherwise, not for the resignations or superannuation or any normal resignation, then it is to be paid within the prescribed. Anyway, the period has not been prescribed. However, in the new code, it has been prescribed that it has to be like the F&F, full and final settlement, has to be happened in 2 working days. Otherwise, the gratuity part, it has to be paid based on the payment of the gratuity, which is within a month, 30 days from the last working day of the month. The remaining remuneration, which is related to salary or leave encashment, anything which has to be paid within 2 working days of the last working day of the employee. Sumit, you wanted to
So this will also involve a lot of changes in terms of the processes of full and final settlements that organizations are right now doing, because for large manpower organizations, especially when where we have got maybe a few tens and hundreds of people who are leaving. So in a span of say 1 month. Earlier, the processes were that once in a month the full and final will happen. Now it is going to be on a 48 hours basis. So certainly, Ash, the kind of technology that is being we are using, if we are aligning that to this to the entire F&F management or the payroll management, I think that will be really a key in aligning to these new labor codes.
I think, Sumit, like I said previously, I think our law needs to be kept in time. This one probably is way ahead of time. I think 2 working days, to my mind, is a stretch, not for I think for any organization, because then what you're thinking of is getting doing F&Fs every 365 days of the year, and especially for large organizations employing so many people, any amount of technology that you bring about, it will be challenging unless and until you set up processes and make it overly simplified way of doing full and final settlement. Okay, so I think there is more clarity that I would love to to get in this specific aspect as to how organizations will deal with it. especially like I said, the large ones, which are upwards of 50,000 plus employees. So and the current attrition rate, I mean, IT sector, if you see, it's above 35-40%. Yeah. Services sector that you see even more 40%. So all those organizations need to really think as to how do you like I said, one, interpret this law, but also how do we comply with the 2 working days requirement. So this one probably I think ahead of times, but yeah, it's going to be challenging, and we need to see how will this come in place.
Sure, absolutely, and certainly this is some parts are very forward-looking, but it's for an employee it's very advantageous, because employee knows that within a couple of days time, and if he's entitled to getting this full and final, so that makes his decisions and his empowerment much more in terms of whenever he's leaving an organization. And it puts an onus on a lot of organizations also to clear it, because we have seen cases, and Rajiv, you may come in here, that in terms of cases where we've had months and months together when some of the organizations are not doing full and final.
Yes, Sumit, that is happening. That is one part actually, where is the fault is on the organization level, but otherwise, as said by Aksh, and even you also said that there will be challenges in settlement. So what we are suggesting is we need to bring in with the robust process, wherein we should justify that when we have relieved the employee, we have done our all efforts to pay their full and final, but there was some gap from their side wherein it was stuck. And if we could be able to justify those things, I think then that part will address the non-compliance part. But as you said, technology is going to play the vital role here.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Rajiv. So
Rajiv, you just took an interpretation of the law to suit the situation, right? And that's what I'm really afraid of, which is where the world is going to move. So the practicality of what is doable, and the practicality of what ideally should be done and should be complied in letter and spirit. I mean, clearly they want this to be expedited, but if companies start taking that point of view, that, oh no, we need a form that needs to be signed by the employee, and that signature should match with the signature that he's given previously, and then there is a gap because he did not put a full stop behind his signature, and then the FNF will not be done for next 75 days. I think we are kind of beating around the letter and the spirit. And I'm sure if things like this will come out, people will take some views. But and that's where I think we need a lot more clarity. Industry leaders need to actually make presentations and and bring about those changes to make it a true law, and which actually can make a real difference in the lives of especially the employees which are earning below $24,000. They're the ones who really need support and cash and money in hand.
Sure, absolutely. So absolutely. So these are the finer points from a leadership perspective, when we see it from a CEO perspective, that these are the reality where the rubber meets the road, has to be in the true spirit of the law, and rather than just seeing and putting whatever is in the black and white. So absolutely, thanks Aksh.
Few of the important are related to payment of wages. So the changes or the implication are regarding the deduction. So deduction part, even existing, it says it shouldn't go beyond 50%. The same has been incorporated in the code on wages as well. Only in the case of the cooperative society can go up to 75% of the deduction. The one important point which I am going to highlight here, otherwise the deduction damages are as good as the same existing process, except where the opportunity has to be given in case of any deduction or damages done by an employee. That's when the employer has to provide the opportunity for him to provide a detailed information why this the damage has happened, And if it is not intentional, then the employer has to take a appropriate call. So that's what they have stated in the very clearly elaborated in the code. And coming to unpaid accumulation, currently we are dealing with the labor welfare act, under the labor welfare act, wherein now this has been brought in under the code on wages, and they have stated it again. It is differs from state to state. Like Karnataka is having 3 years, and few states are having 2 years, where the accumulation, unpaid accumulation, where the employer can hold, like withheld with them for the year, for the 3 years or the 2 years. Now that 2 years and 3 years concept has been removed, and they have stated that within, after the completion of 6 months, like he can hold it only for 6 months. Anything which is beyond 6 months, it has to be paid within 15 days from the expiry of that 6 months, the periodicity. The employer has to deposit to Deputy Labor Commissioner through the bank deposit or transfer to through DD. So this one, or the unpaid accumulation part, has to be deposited. And here also we required some clarity from the department perspective, how they are going to deal with the labor, labor welfare fund. And coming to bonus, what are the major impactors, as I have stated in my in the earlier slide. So we need to get the clarity from each state where the rules have been defined. For example, code on the wages has already been published. 31 states have already been published the rules, wherein they have not stated anything related to the bonus applicability and the threshold part, and they have stated that this will be notified with a separate notification. The government is going to be notified. So that's when the clarity still we are awaiting. Once the notification comes, then we will be able to arrive at what is the difference between from state to state, or are they going to adopt what has been prescribed under the central. And disqualification of bonus, which has been stated in the section 29D, conviction for sexual harassment. Currently this is only for certain gross misconduct, for the bonus shall be deprived, wherein they have added another clause which is related to the conviction of sexual harassment. And the bonus has to be paid only by giving bank credit. Now the current practice, even employer can pay by DD or check, wherein that wouldn't be the case. The codes, once the codes are going to get implemented, it's going to be only by giving a bank credit. Sumit, you would like to touch upon something? You wanted to throw some light, or can we move on to the next slide?
No, I think all of them is related to, you know, the kind of benefits that the employee will get, and the kind of turnaround times that we have put as per law. I think the rest of it will lie in execution of this, so that, you know, the entire benefit is given to the last mile. And certainly it puts a lot of onus on us in terms of the organizations, to ensure that the systems, processes, the kind of technology, and the kind of people who are dealing with employees are certainly knowing this in totality, so that there are very, very optimum chances of things getting followed in the right spirit. Plus, Aksh, do you think there are a lot of gray, there is a lot in every industry, there are a lot of gray market players, and in terms of small and medium players, you know, who will now have to comply to this, which were earlier outside. So do you see any kind of from consolidation of that, or do you think that they will come under more pressure because they have to comply with this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is like I've been saying, you know, getting the law in, and more importantly, enforcing it actually is the best way to to support an industry. But make sure that it is clear, and it is it is well defined. And some of these provisions of using banking channels, for example, that is one of the best things. I mean, it puts people or the competition and everyone to on the level playing field, and avoid all this exploitation of the lowest section of our society. And many organizations do that, and that's a sad part of our economy, and we know that. So I think this is very, very important. And with the way the development has happened in the fintech world, and with the way our finance and technology has kept pace, I think it's one of the best across any country, and I think it is but essential to make use of banking channels. That's very positive. I think things like these will certainly support much more responsible organizations like us, and I'm very happy. I mean, even this last one of including transgenders. I mean, ISS, we employ about 11 transgenders who work with us in different roles. It's an equal opportunity employer, and all these changes in the law, which are moving in the right direction, making sure there is equality and equanimity, both being professed, are the right things to do. So all these changes are very welcome.
So thanks, Aksh. I think very important perspectives, Aksh. And I'll again say, coming in from a very large workforce and seeing these workforce in different countries, I think your perspectives are very important for the organizations operating in India in different states. So thanks, Aksh. Mahesh, I think you can continue.
Yes.
We are, I think, almost approaching last 8 to 9 minutes. So anyone has got any questions, any participants, you can please put in the Q&A. Q&A box. We'll try and address most of that if we can, or we'll reach out to you separately after that. Yeah, Mahesh, you can continue, please.
This is coming to the contract labor regulation, though this act has been subsumed under the social security, wherein specific to code on wages, there is a major changes which they have defined under the code on wages. The one is related to specifically they includes the interstate migrant. They have very clearly clarified on that the employees who have been regularly employed shall not be fall under the interstate migrant workmen. So that clarity has been provided. And coming to the contractor, what is the contractor definition? That is now at par with the existing one. There's no major change over there. It is at par with the current the Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act. And the payment to the contractor, this is one more important the change which they have brought in is principal employer has to ensure. Even today, the principal employer is ensuring making a payment to the contractors by the contractor on time, wherein here they have very clearly stated that the principal employer has to he has to release the payment to the contractor. That's when the contractor will be able to contribute, or he will be able to make the payment to the employees within 7th. So this is one more new way the principal employer has to be very clear in terms of collecting the bills on time, and make sure he is going to release the payments to the contractor on or before 7. That's when even contractor can make the payment. So earlier this was not the scenario. Maybe many of the industries are not adopted this. The contractor will make the payment to the employees, like those contractual employees. Thereafter, the contractor will submit a bill and collect the payments from the principal employer. Now that wouldn't be the case in future. It has to be like principal employer has to pay. So this is the major impact to the employer. And also the good move is the contractual employees will not be deprived in paying the payment to them in a delayed manner, or providing any kind of the kind of excuses by the contractor that the principal employer has not paid. So those kind of ambiguity will be wouldn't be there and shall be omitted. And also one more is bonus to the contract workers. The principal employer is liable to pay minimum bonus in case contractors fail to do so. There are so many judgments which have come where it is related, like couple of judgments have supported the contractor has to pay. Contractor is liable because he is the one who's making a profit of the company, and he has to make ideally it has to be paid by the contractor. Wherein certain judgments also they have stated the principal employer, wherein in the code it is clearly stated in case contractor is failed to pay the bonus to the contractual employees, then the principal employer is liable. The contractor fails to pay, then the principal employer is liable to pay the minimum bonus, which has been very clearly clarified. And this is going to be another responsibility to the principal employer in terms of the bonus payable, and the principal employer has to make sure that contractor is going to pay, and there should be a proper cause in case if he is failing to pay the bonus.
So that puts a lot of onus on the principal employer, and of course, the collaboration with the contractor, not only to sign the contract but also to ensure the last mile in terms of the employee bonus is passed on to the employees who are working for them. So for companies who are employing workforce for other organizations, Aksh, I think this is going to be a big welcome move.
Yes, certainly.
Right. Sure. I think we are approaching towards the last few minutes, and I think there are a lot of areas where, because this is very detailed out. So Mahesh, if you can just take a few questions, and then we can request Aksh to share his his views on this.
Sure. So what I'll do, I'll stop sharing it. There are two questions have come so far. Ajay Gautam was representing a client. How team leads can support to prepare us on the impact of the new labor codes. Yes, for our existing clients, what all the changes which are going to take place in terms of the compliance, definitely we are going to support you. Wherein when it comes to the salary part, how you wanted to restructure your salary and how you wanted to regularize your salary part, which we are also helping you in terms of the additional activity. With the additional, we have an expertise team. Like I'm going to head the team, like the team, and we are going to interact with the client, and we will also understand one-to-one component. What is that component? What is the nature of that component? Accordingly, we will provide you how your salary has to be regularized. This part we are dealing with it, and we are definitely going to support you. Rahul, I think, is from Policy Bazaar, I believe. So as per new codes of, if contractor fails to pay bonus to employees, then employer is liable to pay, but there is nothing discussion about recovery through the invoice in codes. What is your suggestion on this, and how as P we can recover this? Yes, they have not stated in the code, they have not stated in case contractor is fails to pay the bonus and how it has to be recovered. Then this is mutually we need to, then majorly we need to understand why contractor is failed. Maybe contractor might have not turned up, or he's not so like properly extending the services. We need to understand why the contractor is fails to pay. That's when we will be able to take further step. So accordingly, but though they have not stated, but there is a still room for you to collect it, because this has to be paid by the contractor. The bonus has to be paid by the contractor.
But if I may just add on to this, Mahesh,
Yes.
I think one of the things, Rahul, which will also be useful moving forward, is to select the contractors you're working with. And contractor is a word that's being loosely used, but you should think of your own business partners, who are with the right business ethics, and which who work with who are as progressive as your organization is. And that, I think, if you are able to find, then I don't see this to be a big issue or a concern. But if you continue to work with contractors which are more like fly by night, and do not have the same values and ethics, this will run into issues.
Yeah,
Definitely.
actually, you rightly said. So there are two parts. One is we should hire the reliable contractor, and other is, as a principal employer, we should ensure to make the payment to contractor in time. So that spirit of law, which is the payment of bonus to the contractor, should be met. So that tomorrow, if there is an issue on the payment of bonus from the contractor side, we should be in position to justify that we have done everything from, as a principal employer, we have made the payment in time, and it's a fault of contractor. I think then law will see it from that way only.
Sure.
And one more other question from Gaurav Chopra. At a high level average, what could be possible impact on the salary cost on an employer in a service or BPO etc.? The major impact, as I have rightly mentioned, the quantum of basic is going to be increased. The companies who are already paying 50% of your gross remuneration shall not have any impact until unless you are not able to substantiate with your exclusion portion. Otherwise, the companies which are paying less than 50% of the basic shall definitely will have an impact, and you have to like make minimum basic as 50%, that's when the PF quantum, the gratuity quantum, bonus quantum, maternity benefit, and again the employee compensation quantum shall increase. So this is going to be a major implication to the employer in terms of salary as well as the other the contribution.
Yeah, but also, Gaurav, just to add on to what Mahesh is saying, of course, it depends upon how your existing structure is and how your existing setup is. So if as an organization, you've been giving a lower basic, then of course the impact's going to be significantly higher as you move along. But maybe think of what is the best way. This is what I'm talking of is more from an individual standpoint, but if you were to look at it as a cost line item, if productivity, automation, and technology and other things could be brought in, how as an organization, the salary bill or the wage bill could still be maintained. I think that's something that every organization will have to do along with your business partners.
Absolutely, absolutely, Aksh. And Aksh, we've run out of time, and with a few overall perspectives which you would like to share for benefit of our participants.
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, Sumit, like I said previously, I think as organizations, as responsible employers, as well as responsible citizens of this country, I think it is our moral duty on each one of us and all the participants who are on the call to make sure that we are not managing compliance, but we are actually complying with the law and actually in the true spirit of the law. And I think we should just see the hierarchy where rich is only becoming richer and the poor is becoming poorer, and and that is something that should actually worry each one of us as to where will it go and where will it lead, unless and until we start changing the gear and start changing the gear towards how do we support our societies, how do we support our communities, and how do we support the lowest strata of our workforce, and move away from the concept of minimum wages to actually more living wages. So at ISS also, in many of our customers, we profess and make sure that we are trying out living wages concept, which is very different than minimum wages. It's certainly higher, more money in the hands of employees, but a well-paid employee is much more motivated, to increase the level of productivity. And if it's supported by proper technology, proper use of tools and tackles, that at an organizational level will help you manage the cost as well. So I think, to my mind, this code of wages is a welcome move, and I really, really, really hope that all of us as an industry leaders, we adopt it in true letter and spirit of this of the code. And I for one is very bullish about the impact that it can have on bringing about equality and equanimity among the labor workforce. So thank you for listening to me, and thank you, Sumit, for inviting me, and thank you, Mahesh and Rajiv, for giving your very, very insightful knowledge about the labor codes.
Thank you so much, Aksh. Thanks for your time, and we would love to have more perspectives from you on different topics. You being a global leader, it's an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure participants would also have loved to understand your perspectives, and they'll reflect certainly upon that. And for all the participants, if you have any questions, please write into us, and we'll ensure that the responses reach to you. Thanks, Aksh, again. Thanks, Mahesh. Thanks, Rajiv. Thank you all the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.